Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC TV. I always like to say radio. We also have DABCC Radio, so definitely stay tuned for great DABCC Radio episodes. But today we are on DABCC TV, and I have a wonderful show for you today. This is another episode with Kevin Goodman from RTO Software, part of our RTO Software product series that we're doing. And so first of all, I want to introduce and invite or have Kevin say a brief bit about, Kevin, who are you? Tell the DABCC TV listeners, who is Kevin Goodman?
Hey, Doug. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I am CEO of RTO Software, one of the founders of RTO. We started back in 2000. We're the makers of T-Scale, which you may have heard of. Also do the memory management for Citrix in versions 4.0, 4.5, and upcoming releases. We have a couple of products out, and all of these products we try to make it easier on the Citrix administrator or the network administrator that's out there. I think what you'll find is, we were talking the other day, 10 years ago, products like this probably wouldn't have been necessary because you had 5, 10 extra guys in your IT shop, and if you needed to go out and get an inventory of servers, you waltzed a guy down into the room who stepped up on the raised floor and started counting. And those days are gone. We don't have that. Those people don't exist anymore. And RTO Software was created to give those guys a hand and give them some tools and utilities to help them get their job done in a more efficient manner.
You bet. In fact, we're sort of getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but nowadays with virtualization too, you can't just look at a box and say that's one box. That's one box could be 50 boxes.
Excellent point. Yeah, these days you have no idea, and what we find also as we're out there talking to customers is originally when they started building these servers, they gave them really wonderful descriptive names like Pluto and Goofy and Minnie and Mickey, and where they probably should have named them Exchange and SQL and Citrix and the like. So you find, just going out and physically examining those servers doesn't give you a clue as to what's on them.
You bet. So, like I said, we're sort of getting ahead of ourselves. In this DABCC TV episode, we're going to talk about your RTO Discover solution, which is, as you might have figured out, it's sort of an asset management, inventory tracking solution. So RTO definitely has a few other products, and we're talking about these and going to be showing them off in the DABCC TV series with Kevin and sort of featuring these RTO solutions. Some of them being a product called Pinpoint, which is a wonderful performance monitoring solution. You have T-Scale that you mentioned, which is a really optimization and helps improve CPU and memory. And so to learn more about those, and also you have a great one that I'm extremely excited to learn more about for profile management and speeding up logon times, which is extremely important to all of our listeners in the VDI world, and of course in the Citrix presentation server world, and of course terminal services world. So that being said, for those of you guys interested in those technologies, definitely check out the ABCC TV, and we'll be posting up the episodes about those technologies too. But today we're going to talk about RTO Discover. Can you just briefly tell us, what is this RTO Discover? Why would a customer be interested in this?
RTO Discover is a software asset management inventory tool that strives to answer one question. What's out there? What have I got in my network? What's out there on my farms? What's installed on those boxes? How many do I have? It's interesting when we're going out and talking to customers. Our salespeople tell us when they have a prospect, one of the first questions they ask is, "Well, how many servers do you have?" And invariably, someone will say something along the lines of, "Well, we have 70, no, 60 Citrix servers." 60 or 70, we're not sure exactly. If there's two people in the room, they're almost never right. Remember those 5 we took and put over here? And well, Discover would answer that questions immediately. If you're looking on the screen right here down to the left, you can see, well, in this particular world that we're looking at here is 109 devices, and you can actually categorize them. You'll see up on the screen we get 27 virtual servers, 16 actual servers, so forth and so on.
Well, very cool. And of course, we had mentioned virtualization earlier, that you can just look at a box. It's not just one box, but one of the other I wouldn't call it a negative, but in maybe somebody's eyes, it's a negative, and that's server sprawl. And that is nowadays, it's so easy to create a new box and just say, oh, I need a new DNS server. Oh, just click, I want a server for X. Oh, just click a button and you have it. So a tool like this will really help us not get a grip on server sprawl, but let us know how server sprawls occur or what's out there and how our networks are growing so dynamically today.
Discover will be a nice tool in your kit bag to use for that as well, because not only will it tell you what you have now, but you can save off iterations of where you were last January and compare it to today and then compare it to where you are next June, just to get an accurate measurement of where you were and how much you have sprawled. You may not remember on today that you had 27 virtual servers, but if you save off these reports and then compare it to in 2 weeks when you have 54, you can definitely go back and say, wow, I've created a lot of virtual servers. I wonder if all of them were necessary, or can some of them be reclaimed? What are they being used for? Really Discover really helps you to get a handle on what's going on in your organization.
Well, perfect. And we'll definitely show that off here. I have one more question for you before we get started. Kevin, what did it take to get to this point? In other words, what does it take to install Discover? Do we need back-end components? Do we need access to these different devices? What does it take to get to this point?
Discover is meant to be a very, very simple tool to install. It's an MSI install. Installs on one laptop or desktop somewhere in the network. It does require administrative privileges to go out and do a deep dive on some of the devices that are out there, but it does so agentlessly. So once you install it on one machine, that's all you need to do to go out and discover everything else that's in your domain. It doesn't require agents out on all those other servers. So it's a very simple to go in, install, and then collect. This collection here for 109 devices took under 10 minutes. So it goes out very, very fast in the collection piece. I think afterwards, after we go through this, what we ought to do is show the folks Discovery on your network and see what it looks like.
Well, that sounds wonderful. We'll definitely do that. So it's cool to watch. So from the techie side of me, I really like it. It's just watching it happen. Let's dive into let's get the hands on the keyboards now, Kevin. Sound good? First of all, what am I looking at? What are we looking at in front of us right now?
What you're looking at right here is by category, all of the devices that Discover has seen so far. So you see it's 27 virtual devices, 16 servers, some unclassifieds. You'll notice there's some unknown items in here, and we'll go into why they're unknown. Actually, all the way down to a couple of printers out there on the network. And then within those devices, there's some interesting things going on. We can talk about how Discover went out and found these items, if you like. On Network View, and take a look inside here, you'll see that he went out and did an IP range. When you're scanning, and we'll do this on yours when we scan your system live without a net, you can pick a range of IP addresses that you want to scan, or a series of ranges of IP addresses you want to scan. And you see here it just went one by one throughout the network and picked up this information on the device. These guys here with the question marks are currently unknown because we don't have proper credentials to go in there and explore these. It's important to bring that out. Discover isn't some type of surreptitious tool that you could go out and dig up information on a box where you don't have the credentials to do so. So it's not going to violate anybody's network security rules by being out there. If you have administrative privileges on that box, it'll give you some really good information on it. And if you don't have administrative boxes, you're going to see access denied or unknown that you have here. What I like to look at it, though, is over in the category view, because then you can really separate out what items that you're in here. In this particular case, let's take a look at some printers. And let's go ahead and get some inventory properties about these printers. In this particular printer right here, let's see, it has supplies associated with it. It's got toner, and let's take a look at what's going on in the toner here. This is a consumable supply. It's a yellow toner. It actually has a current level of sum in there. So you can actually go out and use Discover to find out how much toner you have in your print. But that's not, it gives you an idea of the depth that Discover goes for. That's not exactly probably why most people that are our customers pick it up. What our customers pick it up is to find out some other really interesting stuff in it. For example, what are the installed applications that's on that server? Or what are the running applications that are on that server? And when you go through and you look at some of this stuff in there like that, you can also go in there and find out what operating system it is, what service pack it is. This particular machine here, you can see it's Service Pack 2003 R2, Service Pack 2. And you can get a wealth of information on what's going on with these. Now, examining one by one isn't all that interesting. What you really want to do is put together a report or so and find out what items are of particular interest to, say, a Citrix administrator. Does this box have everything on it that it needs? And in a situation like that, I can go out here and I can look, let's pin that down. There we go. Let's go out and take a look at one of these guys, and I can actually see on here which version of Citrix it has installed, which does it have web interface installed, and what I can do as well on here, and I'm looking for it, where is it? I can see what type of service packs it has installed, which the operating system it is.
That's very neat, Kevin. Now, one of the big questions we have in the Citrix world, and probably in every world, but definitely in the Citrix world, and that is, I have 20 Citrix servers or 100 Citrix servers, and I want to make sure they're all identical, or they all stick to some sort of quote-unquote gold standard that Company X has defined. Is there a way to be able to look across all these servers and maybe generate a report to see the differences between them and the similarities?
Yeah, so take for the example, you're putting out a farm, and real life example happened earlier this year when we went through the daylight savings time change. If you remember, Congress moved it up a couple of weeks. One of the things that we noticed that week, we had a spike in surge in downloads, an extra 300 downloads discovered the day before that daylight savings time rule was to go into effect. And it was mostly people were using Discover to find out had they got all the patches installed. If you look over here, you see we have Windows updates and stuff like that. Did we get the particular Windows update that we needed for daylight savings time? One way to do that is to go over here into audit configuration, and let's go ahead and let's generate a new standard. And we're going to base this off of this machine we have right here, DABCC 01. And I know that this one had all its patches applied. So I know this is the box that I want everyone else's box to look like. And let's go in there. And some things, though, what I want to do is I'll give this a standard name, new Citrix standard. And let's do this. Let's say, all right, well, I'm not particularly worried if it's compact or not, so I can take off certain items on there. Very cool. But I'm not so much interested in the product key, but I am very much interested that I have Windows Server 2003 with Service Pack 2. I want to make sure it has my correct antivirus package. I'm not too much concerned which shares it has right now, but I want to make sure it has all of these applications installed. And when I do that, I've created a standard. Now, if I compare that, you see I'm comparing it to DABCC 01, and it is a standard that you'll see it matches. Let's go and let's compare that, though, to CTX03. And you'll see over here, well, one of the things I picked is I picked model, and maybe I shouldn't have picked model. But you'll see I'm missing certain applications on this server. It's not meeting up to the standard. If we wanted to, we could run it against all the machines, come over here, generate a report, and you'd have a report prepared for you right there that'll tell you what exactly is missing to get this box up to standard. You take that and run it through your whole system, and you'd be surprised how many machines aren't matching the standard. We had one customer who told us they ghosted out to 1,000 servers, and at any one point in time, they estimated 22% of those servers were not identical. We're talking Ghost.
Yeah.
Now, it had a lot to do, nothing against the product Ghost. It was doing its job. It had a lot to do with it failing sometimes, it not reaching these machines. Maybe they were off when the time to be ghosted was. But this was a test group. And when they went to go do their tests, they'd find tests were failing on all kinds of machines because they didn't start out with the baseline. They use Discover now, and right before they run their test, they'll go and do a test to make sure that the Ghost did its job well and that everything is 100% accurate before they run their test with a very simple thing, which was very complicated prior to that.
That is very, very neat. That is very neat. One of the other things I saw in here was licenses, and that was something I wanted to bring up and have you show us too. We can actually do some license verification out there. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so let's, for example, in this particular set of servers that we have here that we've gone out and discovered, we happen to know that this comes from a situation where you have volume purchase agreements in place. And those volume purchase agreements are for, I think it's 48 servers or something like that. Let's go out there and let's take a look at that key that we have here. And let's run a query on it. We call it a quick query. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to search all of the devices that we have out here for a operating system property named product key, in which it equals this key right here. Okay?
And I see you can even do some wildcards also too.
Yeah, if you wanted to. And you'll see we have two devices out there that are using that key. Are we within our volume purchase? Yes. If it came up and said 99 of them, are we over? Yeah. So that means we're going to either need to go out and buy more licenses or be satisfied with knowing that we're within the amount of licenses that we have taken up.
You had mentioned patches also. Can you maybe show us just an example of all the patches that Discover can discover?
Yeah, so on this particular machine right here, you can see all the security updates that have been installed. And in that case I was talking about previously, let's say we knew that daylight savings time patch is KB 338.8127. You could also run a quick query on that and run it, and let's say I want it for any member that's out there that has this property, and let's see who else has that patch installed. And so then you can run down the list and make sure all of your servers have that particular patch installed. Really important when you get one of those zero-day viruses out there and you realize there was a patch for it, and oh my gosh, did we or did we not install that patch? Did the Tuesday updates work for me or did they not work? Here's a quick 2-second query to find out if it's installed on a particular machine.
Okay, Kevin, that's great. That's great. So, you have a feature called Rules. So what is this Rules thing, and what can somebody do with that?
Yeah, there's a variety of reasons why you might to set up your own categorization rules. For example, let's go in here and let's design a new rule. This is, I want to break out those virtual servers. You have them in one category here, but I actually want them in two different categories. So I'm going to set up a new rule, and I'm going to say of these devices that we've discovered, I want any device that matches a wildcard string pattern. And what I'm going to do in here is I'm just going to bring this up. And we have some Doug Brown servers that we've previously discovered that all begin with DB.
Okay. Good engineer has a naming convention, right, Kevin?
Yeah, well, there you go. So I don't have to search for Goofy or Pluto. I'm going to search with DB. And you notice here I can do wildcards to come up here and try to find those servers. And I'm going to go in here and say next, and I'm going to add those to a specific group. And let's go ahead and give that the DABCC group. And let's give it a DABCC name so we'll know how to find this rule in the future. We'll enable it. And so basically, of all the devices we've discovered, if the server name starts with DB, let's extract it and put it into its own group. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, so let's just run that rule here. Let's uncheck this one down here, and let's run those rules now. And voila, we have 8 11 servers that are overall in the DB server group. So of all the servers that we've collected from you so far, there's an example of a quick way to put it into its own category.
That's very cool. I was always taught, I'd sort of made the comment, a good engineer has a naming convention. And as you can see, my naming convention, DB2K3 TS1. So my naming convention says Doug Brown. It's owned by me, or maybe the location. 2K3, it's the type of server. TS is what it is. And then 1, it's my first TS server. So I could actually go and say, if I wanted to break these down into all my 2,000 boxes, I could just do create the same type of rule you had and say DB2K star asterisk, and it'll go and find all my 2,000 boxes because I have a naming convention to it.
Exactly. And for those of you out there that name your boxes similar, that's what you're going to want to do. You want to set up your own categories there, and Discover makes it quite easy to do so.
Well, that's excellent. That's another reason for the listeners out there to get rid of the names like Pluto, Goofy, and Einstein and all these other things that you have, and go with the naming convention. The next thing I want to talk about is reports. We've seen all this great stuff, and you showed us real briefly how to create one report, but is it possible to recreate all sorts of reports for this? And just this great view, I mean, I love looking at this view right in front of me, and I have a couple monitors. Maybe I'll leave it up at all times, but can I print this thing off? Is that possible?
Yeah, it most certainly is. As a matter of fact, I've been to a couple of customer locations in which they've printed it up and printed on their cube wall, or they've used a big plotter and printed it up and put it on the main wall. And there's lines drawn on it for where they want to do migrations and stuff like that. And it's a good planning tool. And
How would I do that?
It's a pretty simple thing to do the print. It just we can save it as a PDF, or you can print it to your color printer. And it just gives you a nice, clean, poster-sized look of Discover. That's a pretty simple thing to do.
Very cool. So I can print that off or save it as a PDF, take it down to Kinko's, and have them print it off on their plotter?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. If you're using the latest Adobe, you can actually ship it straight from Adobe straight to your local Kinko's and have it printed off on big size.
That is very cool. I'm definitely before we're all said and done here, we're gonna do that for my personal network. Although my network's always changing.
Cool. Okay. You were asking about some, reports and stuff like that. We have plenty of reports inside Discover, and where we came at this from was actually I had some input onto this. As a CTO of RTO, every time we go through our budget, it always includes 10 or 15 new servers, and I'm like, what do we need these for? It seems to me every time I turn around, we're buying more servers. And so one of the nice reports we have on here is this summary report, which will go through, tell you how many devices you have, tell them what categories of devices you're using them for, and then roll down the list one by one of exactly what is sitting out there on your network. So the next time your CEO, your penny-pinching CEO or boss says to you, more servers, what are we using the existing ones for? You whip out one of these reports and show them, well, actually, we're up to our lower lip. We need more servers.
That's very cool. And these reports, these are that was just a GUI report. I take it we can print these off, email it, export it to HTML? How does that work?
All excellent questions. And as a matter of fact, that's exactly what they are. They're HTML reports, all with self-contained, self-referencing icons. So you can send it as an attachment in an email. You can print it out. You can store them all up on a location up on your internet web server and then just point people to them, and then they can view them there as well. All very simple to create. In a particular, after you look at the summary report, what you may find is the guy says, what's on that particular server? Why is that one so full? We just bought it. And in that particular case, then you can come along and go through by category, pick out a particular device that you might be interested in. You see, here's our virtual category and our classifieds.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, pick out which device you're interested in and run a report particularly on that one particular device. And it gives you all the detailed information that you were seeing over on that other list.
Wow, and look at that scroll bar. That report's actually quite huge. What all is in there? I mean,
it's just about everything that was over on that right side when we brought it up in the properties is now here reproduced in this list, including applications that were running at the time, and in this particular case, what user profiles are stored on there, what Windows services are running, just a wealth of information about a particular device, to the point where if you're in a meeting and you're in charge of these servers and your boss says, I need to know something about this, you're not going to be at a loss for words, I promise you.
Very neat, very neat. Okay, Kevin, I guess it's time, if there's anything else you'd like to show, but I guess it's time maybe to reset all this stuff and show the viewers exactly how it goes about discovering this. Is it time for that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. Well, guys, we're going to reset this thing, and we'll catch you on the flip side, so just bear with us for 1 second. So we're back, and we've cleaned out the Discover inventory, and
okay, so if you can see here, .100 is the box that we're on here, and we've got a dialog box up that tells us what else do we want to scan. So we're going to click the button that says Discover All Devices, and we're just going to start. If Doug's network had any SNMP devices that needed community strings, we could put them in here. We have public in there by default, but so what we're going to do is we're just going to click Start and let it go, and it's going to go out there and start looking out on the network, starting out first with a ping and finding devices, and then as you see that green recycle refresh button, it's going in querying information about the individual devices. And it's going to wander all the way through that whole range that we talked about, and eventually you're going to see them go from unknown to some type of category that we're going to put the device in. One thing we should add is while we were away, we had Doug put in credentials to give us access to all of these boxes. And as you can see, Doug, we're already discovering things.
Wow. And the other thing to note, too, if you take the mouse down here in the bottom right, you see Discovery and Process, and it tells me what IP address I'm on. So I can see we just went through 25, now we're on 26, and I have boxes all the way up to 254. So, it'll go through and I guess discover all those, IP by IP.
Yeah, so I don't know that we need to make the people sit through all of them, but you see already on some boxes we've already gathered a lot of information. On this particular one you have right here, I can tell it's a virtual server that has Server 2003 installed, Service Pack 2.
Kevin, I really appreciate your time today. I really appreciate you taking the time to go through Discover with all of us.